Welcome to this session on primary quantitative data collection methods. In the previous sessions, we looked at different types of data as well as the levels of measurement. We also learned various methods of sampling. In this session, we shall discuss primary quantitative data collection methods. First of all, why do we collect data? We collect data in order to obtain information about a particular subject, to keep records, to make decisions about important issues, and to pass on information. Data collection is therefore an important aspect of any type of research study. Inaccurate data collection can impact the results of a study and ultimately lead to invalid results. After watching this video, you will be familiar with the various methods of quantitative data collection. A quick reminder from the previous session, quantitative data collection methods rely on random sampling and structured data collection instruments that fit diverse experiences into predetermined response categories. They produce results that are easy to summarize, compare, and generalize. Do you remember the differences between qualitative and quantitative data that we discussed earlier? Now, apart from these differences, we also have differences between qualitative data collection methods and quantitative data collection methods. To make things even more complicated, these do not coincide with the differences between qualitative and quantitative data. You can collect quantitative data in an interview, which is a qualitative data collection method. This happens when you ask for someone's age or income. Age and income are numeric and quantifiable. Similarly, you can ask for perceptions, feelings, or explanations in a survey, which is a quantitative data collection method. This can be done, for example, by use of a Likert scale. You may have seen survey questions where you are asked to express your opinion on certain statements with answering options that range from "I do not agree at all" to "I agree very much." Well, this is a Likert scale. Let me show you an example. You see that categories "I strongly agree" to "I strongly disagree" are coded with the numbers 1 to 4. These numbers do not mean that 4, "I strongly disagree," is 4 times as much as 1, "I strongly agree." The numbers only represent a certain direction or order in the data. Another example is with the levels of satisfaction with options that range from extremely satisfied to extremely dissatisfied. Now you realize that quantitative research is used to quantify the problem by way of generating numerical data or data that can be transformed into usable statistics. It is used to quantify attitudes, opinions, behaviors, and other defined variables and generalize results from a larger sample population. As I have just mentioned, quantitative data collection methods are similar to qualitative methods, but are much more structured. Quantitative research uses measurable data to formulate facts and uncover patterns in research. Some of the typical quantitative data gathering strategies include administering surveys with closed-ended questions, face-to-face and telephone interviews, and conducting experiments and handing out questionnaires, which can either be administered by the researcher, sent via post, or electronically through email. Quantitative data gathering also includes observing and recording well-defined events, such as counting the vehicle frequency on a particular road at specified times of the day, and obtaining relevant data from management information systems. There are various tools that a researcher can utilize to generate quantitative data. I would like to take you through the most common tool used by researchers, which is questionnaires. These can be formulated in various ways. Firstly, you may have hard copy questionnaires which can either be administered by the researcher or sent via post to various addresses. These can be handed out to a large number of people, saving the researcher both time and money. One disadvantage about handing out hard copy questionnaires is that some of the people who receive questionnaires do not return them. This lowers your response rate. In such a case, oversampling may be necessary and follow-up reminders to participants encouraging them to complete the questionnaire. This, however, increases the time and cost to conduct the study. In some cases, offering incentives to the respondents may increase the response rate. Secondly, a new and inevitable growing methodology is the use of internet-based research. This would mean receiving an email on which you would click on an address that would take you to a secure website to fill in a questionnaire. This type of research is often quicker and less detailed. Some disadvantages of this method would be exclusion of people who do not have a computer or are unable to access a computer. Also, the validity of such surveys are in question, as people might be in a hurry to complete it and so might not give accurate responses. Just like with the hard copy questionnaires, oversampling would be necessary to increase the response rate. In the case where the email response is not received. Notably, questionnaires, like interviews, can contain either structured questions with blanks to be filled in or multiple choices. To facilitate filling out forms and data entry in a structured format, the form should ideally be laid out with the data fields clearly identifiable and responses pre-coded. In general, writing should be reduced to a minimum. For example, with tick boxes or multiple choices being limited to numbers, as shown in the example here. In an open-ended format, keywords and other structuring procedures should be imposed later to facilitate database entry and analysis for quantitative research. Keep in mind that where multiple languages are common, questionnaires should be prepared using the major languages of the target group. Special care needs to be taken in these cases to ensure accurate translations. Questionnaires often make use of a checklist. A checklist is a list of behaviors, characteristics, or other entities that are of interest to you as the researcher and involves simply checking whether each of them on the list is observed, present, or true. Let us go over another method of quantitative data collection: structured interviews. Interviews can be carried out in various ways, either face-to-face, through the telephone, or by use of computer-guided personal interviews. The structured interview makes use of a questionnaire and is different from the qualitative data collection instrument, like the in-depth interview and the semi-structured interview. Telephone interviews are, well, conducted through the telephone, and with recent technology, Skype interviews are also regarded as telephone interviews. They're generally less time-consuming, relatively cheaper, and the researcher has ready access to anyone who has a telephone. In this case of an interview, the response rate is usually higher than the electronic or hard copy questionnaires, but not as high as the face-to-face interview. The sample may be biased, as only those people with a telephone or a computer, with regards to Skype, are contacted, thereby excluding the people who do not have either a telephone or a computer. Face-to-face structured interviews, on the other hand, enables the researcher to establish a rapport with the potential participants and therefore gains their cooperation. It yields the highest response rates in survey research and allows the researcher to clarify ambiguous answers and, when appropriate, seek follow-up information. Keep in mind that people are truthful when responding to the questionnaires, particularly regarding controversial issues when their responses are anonymous. It is important to pilot test the questionnaires to determine any underlying potential difficulties before your main process of data collection. That was all for the quantitative data collection methods. We covered the various methods that are used in primary quantitative data collection and the various tools used in data collection. In the next video, we're going to discuss secondary quantitative data collection methods.